friends across the board. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bill and Frank Eat Pop Culture. I am Frank. With me, as always, is Bill. Bill, how you doing?
Hello, sir. I am doing well. Really excited about this episode that we're about to record.
Yeah, this is a different than anything we've done, so far. This is episode 12. We were lucky enough to have a very special guest today. And Bill, do you want to kind of give us some background on who we'll be talking to?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned briefly last week, our special guest today is author, comic book enthusiast, all-around great guy, Dr. Tony Ortega, who I struck up the most random of friendships with at a Pizzeria Uno in Washington, D.C. many years ago after, I believe it was Awesome Con in D.C., where we were both there meeting celebrities and people who wish they were celebrities, but are celebrities to us.
Gotta love that deep dish.
Gotta love it. Sometimes the best friendships are struck in the most odd of places. But Tony is about to unleash his first ever comic book called The Accords, which we're going to get into. He's also written 2 really cool self-help books. He's my favorite author, one of my favorite dudes on the planet. So I'm super happy to have him with us today. And then he's a big time comic book lover. So we're going to talk about the big Marvel Phase 4 announcement last night, which was way more extensive than I thought it was going to be. Plus, we might get into some X-Men comic book stuff because Tony's a big fan of the mutantdom. So I'm really excited about this episode. I'm so happy Tony's with us.
All right, Bill. Sounds good. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. So let's start the show! All right, so we're here with Dr. Tony Ortega. Tony, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
I am so excited to be here, and I am just so honored. And after that introduction from Bill, I just feel like, all my problems have just melted away. And, but Bill needs to tell the real story. It wasn't so random at Pizzeria Uno. He happened to have, loaded his Grinder app for a second there with a blank profile. And I told him I don't talk to blank profiles. So he met me at Pizzeria Uno.
Yep. I was in a very experimental phase.
Bill, are you corroborating?
Yes, I corroborate.
Okay. Oh man, yeah, that is a completely different story than I got.
He's on the DL, so we got to keep it like that.
Yeah,
we will. Especially being down in Charlotte. Woo.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm in Trumpville. We don't want to be broadcasting that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So Tony, so I met Tony through Bill. I guess the first time I met you were at Dragon Con, right?
No, I've never been to Dragon Con. It was
Wizard World. Wizard World.
Oh, I met him in Philly. That's correct.
Yes.
So I met you in Philly.
David Tennant and Billy Piper.
You had a David Tennant and Billy Piper VIP pass, I believe.
I sure did.
Most people, they'll spring for one VIP pass. Tony's a multiple VIP pass experience guy at these things. So nothing wrong with that.
Go big or go home.
That's right. So I've been following Tony on social media ever since. And I just feel like every time I go on social media, you're like the busiest guy in the world. I feel like you're like Seth Green from like 10 years ago. You've always got some project going on. You're a doctor of psychology. You've got 2 published books, which I can only imagine is like just a hell of a process to grind through. And now you're stepping into one of your near and dear loves in your heart, comic books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there was always an idea of a superhero team. I'm a diehard. As much as I love X-Men, my first love has always been the Avengers. And one of my things about growing up gay, you didn't have any role models in comic books. Then North Star comes out in Alpha Flight. Okay, cool. We have a token gay now, but that's really about it. And so certainly we have evolved since then, but and we have, gay members on superhero teams, and then we have gay comic books. Here's my problem. You've got the token gay in the straight team, or you got the token straight in the gay team, or you've got neither on either team. And what frustrated the heck out of me was like, we don't live in a world where there's a token gay or a token straight.
Or you've got like ancillary gay characters, because Judd Winnick started doing some of that stuff when he took over Green Lantern back in the day, but it was very peripheral.
Yes. So it wasn't like, in your face, very mainstream. And so my first goal was to have like an Avengers type team that had equal representation of heterosexual, transgender, and homosexual characters. I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's accurate. I think that's diversity.
And the world.
Exactly. So, and then I combined that with my love of metaphysics. So, for those of you familiar with the chakras, we have 7 chakras in our body if you participate in that philosophy. And each one does a different thing. And so I was like, all right, cool. So why don't we make these people, or why don't I make superheroes whose superpowers relate to chakras and present it in a way that's very mainstream? Because I think a lot of people are turned off by spirituality because it's so woo-woo, and they think they have to meditate 40 hours a week in the mountains of Tibet or some crap like that. And, I just wanted to, just like with my self-help books, I want to bring it street level. I want to bring it mainstream. I don't want it to be this overly heady thing, So that's basically how the Accords was born.
So I don't know much. So let's talk about the chakras a little bit.
Okay.
So you said there's 7.
There's
right?
7. So you have your root chakra, your sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye, and crown chakra. And so they're in different parts of your body.
The third eye is your pee-pee hole, correct?
No, your third eye. I could see where you went with, how you would think that. No, your third eye is a space like between your eyebrows. So that's the seat of your like intuition. Your heart chakra, health and love. Your solar plexus chakra is all about power. Sacral chakra, which is like in your pubic area, that's your creation, your creativity. Root chakra, that is in some people would say the base of your spine. I say it's in your taint.
Of course.
Of course I would go there. And that's all of your like basic physical needs and just feeling grounded and stable. So each one corresponds to a different thing. And so they're essentially called your wheels of life.
So then does each hero of your team, each guy or girl represents one of the chakras?
Yes.
That's a cool idea, man.
Yeah, it's something that hasn't been done before.
I'm already intrigued. Yeah,
it's something that hasn't been done before. I mean, I personally feel, and another reason why the Accords was born is that I feel that comic books are very spiritual, even though a lot of people won't admit it. I mean, you've got the obvious. Hello, Thor. He's the thunder god. It's already built into his name almost, right? But some of these, themes of resurrection with Jean Grey. Hello, Jesus Christ. All of these things. There's all of these higher order themes in comic books. So I was like, all right, let me put Tony Ortega's spin on this.
So does any of your psychotherapy or psychology background or methodology in that field play into where you're going with any of the storylines or the origins of the characters or anything like that?
Definitely you'll see that in the origins. Definitely you'll see that in the interplay between the characters, and certainly their own hero's journey. I mean, especially one of my favorites, I don't know why, because he didn't start off being my favorite, Grounder, who's the root chakra guy, who's the white cisgender heterosexual male of the group.
The taint guy.
Yeah, the taint guy. He's the taint guy.
So you made the taint guy the straight guy.
I sure did. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I mean, his hero's journey, and you'll see that he's kind of spotlighted between issues 1 and 2. You'll start to see that kind of like the psychological ramifications of everything he's been through, his trauma. You get his origin in issue number 2. So you get to see some of those psychological factors play into it. So it's a very, 40 years of reading comic books, 27 years as a mental health professional, 5 years studying metaphysical thought, all wrapped into one.
And I couldn't help but notice that I think the leader of the team, the leader of the Accords, bears a striking resemblance to the person you see when you look in the mirror every day. Am I right?
Well, listen, I've gotten some flack for that, but if you are the creator of a comic book and you're like the financial backer of the comic book, aren't you going to make one of the characters you?
I'd probably make myself the Taint character.
I would do the exact same thing. I don't blame you one bit. And you know what? I mean, I follow you on all forms of social media. I see every shirtless picture you put up after you've done your workout. And you look, I mean, you're about as jacked as the dude. I mean, it's not far off.
Well, thank you. And just for reference, Corazon, who's the name of that character you're referring to, is not the leader of the team.
So at least you didn't make yourself the leader. So there is your ego stopped at some point. I get it.
Exactly.
So which chakra did you make yourself?
I made myself heart chakra.
That makes sense.
Okay, good.
So I figured it's, I'm, it's my line of work. I'm all about restoring mental health, love and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make myself heart chakra.
Did you take anybody else from your real life and base a character on them?
There are elements of people I know in real life in each of the characters. So Segura, who's the fan favorite, even though the comic isn't even out. So she's solar plexus chakra. She's a mixed race, a transgender woman, and she's actually based off of one of my clients. Sire, who's the sacral chakra guy, he's based off of a good friend of mine who's also a transgender male. So I use, and then Howl, who's my throat chakra guy, is loosely based on a former client. So, I picked elements of everything. And then Reina, who's the crown chakra, she's the chick with the big hair.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually the leader. I kind of see her, for the Gossip Girl fans out there, a mix of Blair Waldorf and Serena Vanderwoods. And so I pulled from that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you go when you decide that you want to do this? How do you go about finding your artist? Your artist is named Alex Garcia. How did you find him?
So I've been working on and off with Alex. I found him through my best friend, Mark Dominic, many years ago.
I've met. He's a great dude.
Yeah. And he, one of the things I know, like I like to create my own stuff when I work with Alex. He's done private commissions for me. And, folks out there, go follow him, The Art of Alex Garcia. He's freaking amazing. And one of the things I get from Alex is that I'll describe to him in words what I want, and he's able to translate it just so fucking perfectly into pictures. And so I was like, hey, would you help me design the characters? And so he's like, sure. So I give him the origins, the biographies, the power sets, and he designs them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And then he says, by the way, you want me to stay on as the artist of the book? I go, are you fucking kidding me? You were always the one I wanted. I didn't know you had the time. He goes, I will make the time. And that's how that was born. And I couldn't be more fortunate to have this very talented artist for the comic book.
Yeah, because looking at what I've seen, he's legit.
Very much so. Very much so. And you can tell he's very heavily influenced by, New Teen Titans era George Perez, which is by far one of my favorite, comic book artists.
I was just going to say, he reminds me, the stuff I've seen reminds me of Perez, and I know you love the big Perez splash pages with all the characters and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
If asked, I would probably say Perez is one of my favorite artists as well. I think that style of comic art is something that's been really lost.
Yeah.
You get so much kind of, listen, everybody's, when it's art, you really can't, art's art, and it's whatever comes out of somebody's heart. But when I think comic book art, I think like George Perez or Jim Aparo or that kind of time frame.
And even, John Byrne around that era was also very good because,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to jump to one of the questions, but I think one of the guys on Twitter asked, what was my favorite comic book that inspired this? And the Jim Shooter, George Perez, John Byrne era of Avengers is by far one of my favorite. The Korvac saga, there's elements of the Korvac saga that fit into the first storyline. And I could reread the Korvac saga so many times, and I'll still enjoy it like I did when I was like 12.
So, little side note, the big rumor that I've been reading today is that the next big bad in the cosmic MCU world is going to be Korvac.
I would flip.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, because it's such a cool, like, it's not where people are going to expect him to go, and I would love it.
So it's not Kang.
You're obsessed with Kang. You really need to relax. You just want to see the stupid suit.
Oh my God, Kang, really? I've lost all respect for him.
I lost respect for him years ago. If they do what they say, where there's going to be like an Earthbound series of movies and a cosmic series, and the cosmic big bad is Korvac and the Earthbound one is Doom, I can die a happy person.
That would be really cool. I my body is ready for it.
Yep, definitely. We're jumping ahead. I don't want to get too far off.
So Tony, I got a question. So what is your plan for like the size of the run on this thing?
So I'm borrowing one of my friends, who's also a comic book creator, Rich Bernatovich, who did this amazing series called The Sentinels. He had a very finite story, and it was over 4 graphic novels. So I'm assuming like 30 issues, roughly off the top of my head. And right now in my head, I've got about 18 issues plotted out, each like a 6-issue story run. I don't have anything past that. Will I end it there? Maybe. There are plans though, and I'm going to start to work on that soon, to have a spin-off title, because I just want to be like Shonda Rhimes. And so they will be introduced. You'll get spurts of it in the first issues, the first couple issues, but by issue 6, you'll get a hint of like, oh, who are these 5 people who oddly have connections to this? So tentatively, there is going to be an offshoot team.
So no pun intended. At some point in your first run, there's a backdoor pilot.
There is lots of backdoors. I'm all about the backdoor.
So
don't go there, Frank. Guys, you know me. I'll go there.
I'm stepping back.
He's scared.
All right. So how is the Kickstarter going? Because I mean, I think, the world is such that if you're a creative person that has a creative itch and you have just a little bit of energy and get up and go nowadays, you can make anything happen. It's just the way the world works. I mean, with this podcast, for example, I mean, Bill and I, we didn't have a social media presence. We're not celebrities. We don't have any sort of following before we started this thing. And it's going so well, I was in a band back in the late 90s, early aughts, and it makes me so mad that we didn't have the technology and the outlets that are available today, because it would have been a completely different life that I'm living now.
Mm-hmm.
Good Charlotte would have opened for you instead of the other way around.
Thank you, Bill. And you've got iTunes. You can self-publish, and you can self-publish books. You can put out podcasts and build a Twitter following and have thousands of downloads, and get whatever you have inside you out there in front of people. All you really need to do is not be afraid. Now, the other thing we have available to us is this Kickstarter, and I think it's an awesome idea. I think it really engages the fans that want to support what they want to support, and gives them a connection to the artist. So tell me about your experience with Kickstarter, how that works, how it's going, and where people can find it if they want to help you out.
Well, let me just give the website address right now. It's helpmaketheaccords, plural.com. So Kickstarter is just such a user-friendly crowdfunding platform. I had the help of a buddy of mine who's been doing crowdfunding for a long time. He helped me with the video. I looked at other people's comic book Kickstarter pages. So it's really, really user friendly. And if you have some inkling of what you're doing, you could do rather well. So I made the mistake, though. I did it a 60-day campaign, which has stressed me out for the last 40, 50 days because I wanted to include the month of Pride because I figured Pride Month would get me a lot of, funding. But most Kickstarter, they recommend 30 days, which I wish I would have done. It's really about posting every day on social media, reaching out to people. I've had a few good shout outs. Kelly Sue DeConnick gave me a shout out. Steve Orlando, Cena Grace, Joe Glass. So a lot of these comic book creators.
Wow.
I've been fortunate enough, but it's a lot of work because you literally have got to be on it every single day. You've got to post every single today. Today it's been way too hot to do anything, so I was like, I didn't do anything. Tomorrow I'll be down to the last 7 days of the campaign, so I'll be very aggressively posting and stuff like that. So you really have to stay on top of it.
And how close are you?
So 67%. I've got $3,400 out of 5,000. Hey, listen, we all do things last minute, and I've seen other Kickstarter campaigns do the last bit in the last week. So I'm still very hopeful. My friend who helped me out said, you've got the makings of getting this funded. So I'm very, very excited. I had 67%. And someone the other day got one of the $250 tier rewards package, which is you get to be your own character who is going to be in that offshoot that I told you, the spin-off series.
But you can't be the taint chakra because that's already taken.
That is already taken.
Spoken
you cannot
for.
be the taint, Frank. Stop wanting to be the taint.
So I have contributed. Yes. Bill has contributed.
Thank you.
And I would say,
I think I think I'm going to jump back in there too. I think I want to go one tier higher than I am right now.
Oh, you just want to be with Frank. You're just like, oh, well, Frank did this. I could do this.
Well, I asked him, I said, which tier did you do? And he told me, and I went in and just went up one.
I love it.
No, so just to be a dick, because I knew it would bother him. But yeah, so listen, anybody out there listening, this is the world now. We need to get these messages out there, and you've got creative people out there that are actually trying to do something and put something out in the world to speak for people. Go in, donate anything you can.
Yes.
$1, $5, retweet it, tweet it, tell your friends about it. Let's get this thing to $5,000. I think we can do it. I think it's awesome what you're doing. I mean, any creative person that actually takes the step to put themselves out in front of people, I have a massive amount of respect for. You do it more often than most. So, I hope it works out for you. I'm super excited about it. And I can't wait to get my signed copy by Dr. Tony Ortega.
Oh, you'll get it. You're going to get it.
Well, listen, the thing that struck me about it is that
I'm sending it right to CGC.
I mean, that'll exponentially increase the value. The thing that struck me about it is, I was reading about what it's about, and I know Tony, and I thought to myself, I'm a white heterosexual male. I'm fully represented everywhere. Like, I tried to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's like never sees themselves represented in whatever form of entertainment you're talking about. So I think it's, I don't know, our entertainment world should better reflect what the world is. And I feel like any step we can take in that direction is a worthwhile one. So, I mean, that's, I would have donated even if I didn't think that, because I love Tony, but it just made it, it's money well spent.
Well, the other thing I want to throw in there for the non-comic book readers, because, I've grilled a lot of my friends on how to promote this and stuff like this. And so they asked me, so for the non-comic book reader, what would they get from reading this comic book? And the first words out of my mouth were finding the hero within. these 7 characters were basically nobodies. And then one day in November of 2016, they not wake up, but you'll see in their individual origins, but they have these powers and they're like, WTF, what's going on here? Which then becomes part of the bigger storyline. But it's really all about, activating that hero within, So hopefully these 7, anyone, whether you're white, black, gay, straight, trans, cisgender, you'll be able to find yourself in any one of these 7 characters. I find myself, other than, of course, the obvious character, but I find myself, a little bit of myself in each one of these characters. And I'm not, transgender. I am not heterosexual. I am not white, but I'm still able to relate to these characters despite all of those differences. So it's really about, finding that hero within.
I think that's some pretty powerful stuff, Tony.
Thank you.
So Tony, let's go to Twitter. We have a couple questions from listeners.
Shoot.
And the Grief Burrito podcasts, they ask, what's the comic book that started your love for comics?
It's actually hanging on my wall, signed by Jim Shooter, George Perez, and Stan Lee. I was able to get his signature before his untimely passing. And it was Avengers 170. You have Iron Man and Captain America protecting Jocasta up against a fence, and the rest of the Avengers are like about to attack because she's the bride of Ultron. And that's the first comic book I ever remember reading. And even, George Perez's art is just so stunning. And that cover is just so eye-grabbing. And, Jocasta was like such a great character. And that's when I just said, I love this shit. This is fucking amazing. A whole team of people. You got Hawkeye, who doesn't even have any powers. He just shoots arrows. And you got Captain America, and you got Iron Man, and you got a god. You got Thor. It's like, so this little adolescent, conflicted dude was able to just find solace and just joy and excitement in the pages of the Avengers mainly. And that's what really started my love of comic books.
So what is it about Jocasta that you find so intriguing?
That she was like this blank slate, imprinted, they imprinted Janet Van Dyne's brainwaves on her, but she becomes her own person. So it's almost like, if we get a little deep about it, it's almost like, you don't have to subscribe to what society tells you need to be. She didn't need to be Janet Van Dyne. She became her own person. And so that's why I always found her fascinating. Plus, she was kind of hot.
I was going to say that, but I thought it'd be weird.
No, she was kind of hot.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Mixie Plum on Twitter writes, "Oh my gosh, I just read his bio on his page, and I'm in love with his work. I'm also a huge supporter and advocate of LGBTQ. I just want you to tell him hi for me.
Hi.
And rock on with your awesome self."
Aw.
Look at that.
Thank you.
You have fans.
I have fans. Oh my God, that's great. Thank you so much for that.
And then she says, does he want a free mom hug?
Whenever I can. Absolutely. Absolutely. I will take a hug from anyone as long as your hygiene is good.
The last question I have for you, this is a serious one.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. This comes from Laugh Life Adam, at Laugh Life Adam on Twitter. And he asks, why does someone's sexual orientation matter? Why is it ever in need of referencing? If the social goal is total equality, why is there so much emphasis on it? The way I see it, referencing this is like choosing an arbitrary fact about someone. So what do you think?
Right?
That's deep.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer it first with just 2 words. Representation matters. I'll tell you, yes, it is all about social equality. And you know what? I am dying for the day that people don't need to come out
Right.
as gay or trans. I am dying for that day. That day has not arrived. The world we live in is not there yet. So I know for me, I wish Alpha Flight 106, which I think is the issue that North Star came out, would have been published years before, because as a conflicted gay kid, growing up in a Cuban Catholic household where AIDS is just on the verge of starting, becoming an epidemic, I wish there was representation, because listen, we read comic books, and for people to tell me you don't relate to this character, they're fucking lying. And I wish I had representation that I could relate to in some way, shape, or form. And when I heard, or not heard, oh God, that's silly. When I saw North Star come out the way that he did, I felt that anger. I felt that. And I was like, finally, listen, it wasn't easy growing up gay in the 80s. I mean, borderline suicidal half my teenagehood, and I think it's important that, and we don't all live in New York City where I could walk around with my partner holding hands. I'm single, by the way, for any of the cute male gay listeners. I could walk around holding hands, but if I'm living in, oh God, Bill, where you live,
yeah, forget it.
Kids, gay people, trans people are basically hiding who they are. And so when you see this in the pages of mainstream media, that matters, because, you don't feel so alone. You could see yourself in somebody else and be like, okay. Because you can't say you don't watch a movie, a TV show, read a book, read a comic book that doesn't inspire you to A, feel less alone in the world, and B, does not inspire you to be a better person. So when that day comes when I don't need to come out as a gay man, I would not make it a big deal. But it's funny that they said it was a big deal, when really the big deal is this is probably one of the few comic book teams you will see that has equal representation of gay, straight, trans.
And also, like, the question, I feel like the guy asking the question, or girl, the question came from a good place. Like, this shouldn't be a thing, but
absolutely right.
Right. But he's coming from a place of like, all things being equal, it's an arbitrary thing, but like all things aren't equal. We're still in a world where certain segments of the population are being persecuted, for lack of a better word. So until that's not the case, then things like this, calling it like a call to action, is necessary. In fact, you could argue that in the last 3+ years, we're going the wrong direction.
Absolutely. And my character, who's the strongest member of the team, is a trans woman of color, and trans women of color are the highest rate of people murdered. And so my character is a tribute to the sisters that we have lost, because, that representation is not out there.
Wow. I think about, my little brother growing up in a Italian South Philly Catholic household, with an uber, like an uber macho father, and even macho or older brother.
That's debatable.
Yeah, really.
And
okay, girl.
And it makes me sad to think about, what he thought about every night laying in bed going to sleep, and being scared and being afraid that he would lose his family if they were found out, and things like that. And I do think the last couple of years we've gone backwards a little bit, but I think about when he was going through this and how much easier it would be for him going through it now, because we have come a long way.
We have.
And it's crazy. It's only been like 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years, but the way how much things have changed in that 20 years.
Very true. It's a weird, without getting too far down the rabbit hole here, it's a weird dichotomy, because like we have come a long way. It is easier. But I feel like the flip side of that same coin is that the opposition or the people against it are even more fucking insane now than they were 10 years ago.
And let me add another layer to that, since, so as you mentioned, I'm a psychologist, and, my practice focuses on serving LGBT clients. And I get a lot of young gay men in my office who, albeit different struggles, but there's still a lot of struggles in coming out, even in this day and age. I had in the last couple of years, lovely young man, attorney, and he was like, I'm gay, but I like football. Is that okay? And I don't listen to Cher. And I'm like, dude, being gay means you like men. Whether you listen to Cher or AC/DC, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So there's still these struggles because there's still stereotypes. Yep. And again, I go back to, this is why representation matters.
And listen, I'm going to put this out there too. I'm divorced, back in the dating scene, and I read Tony's first book, Is He Here Yet? And he's writing it from the perspective of a gay male. But for anybody that's wanting just a good book on relationships, pick it up. It's available on Amazon. I got a lot out of it, even though I'm straight. So, I mean, another plug for Tony there. But I mean,
thank you.
The guy's Tony's a talented writer. Everybody should get on board.
Tony, did you think for a second there he was coming out?
For just a quick second, I was like,
I was like, oh, fuck.
Listen, if you believe Tony, I came out at a Pizzeria Uno 15 years ago.
So, Bill, I really owe you a pretty big thank you.
I feel like that's true all the time, but what specifically this time?
I really, really am digging your Podcoin app recommendation.
Podcoin is insane. I love it. It's the only way I listen to my podcast now. You can actually fire up Podcoin and get paid to listen to your favorite podcasts.
And all you need to do is go to the iPhone or Android app store, download the app, and if you put in this special code, CULTURE, CULTURE, you're going to get 300 points right off the bat to your first cup of coffee at Starbucks, to your first Amazon gift card, to your first charity. Listen to podcasts, earn money while you're doing it, download the Podcoin app, Podcoin. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. So, Tony, you're a huge mutant books fan. Your most favorite, of course, being Jean Grey.
That's my girl.
So the logo to Tony's psychology practice is Jean Grey inspired.
It's a phoenix.
Yep.
So I'm super interested to get your take. So was it been a year and a half or 2 years ago they had the Jean Grey Resurrection arc?
Which was amazing. Although I told Matt Rosenberg it didn't need to be 5 issues. He was like, and he actually agreed with me. So, but I love how he brought her back. And X-Men Red by far is one of my favorite X-Men runs ever, because Jean really shined in that series. I mean, she's been dead for all these years. Issue number 1 brought tears to my eyes. I was fortunate enough, I bought the splash page, which was like the most pivotal page, I think, in X-Men Red number 1. And, and this is where Jean's over the earth, and she's like, I hear your pain. I hear your fear. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm like, that's my Jean. She's like, I don't know this shit, but I'm going to figure it out somehow. And, that's what I love about her.
So now she's kind of gone again. Yes. And I guess I'm trying to remember. She left. She's off world or in another time based on an alternate dimension, Age of X-Man thing, right?
Yeah, another Nate Gray created reality.
Right. So, concurrently with the Age of X-Men thing happening, they also bring Cyclops back, and yes. I feel personally that I love the way they brought him back at the end of Extermination. and then it kind of fell flat after that. It's like they brought him back for that pop, and then they really haven't known what the fuck to do with him since they brought him back. How do you feel? Do you disagree?
The whole they got a little aspect of the Phoenix to resurrect him. Cute. I mean, it was innovative, but I was like, I was like, the whole like resurrection thing was a little like meh for me. And then he's resurrected. Then Gene's off in this Nate Gray created reality, and I'm like, we didn't get the reunion that we wanted, right? Until, no spoilers, this last issue, Matt Rosenberg's last issue of Uncanny X-Men, and I was just like, it was almost like jerking off without orgasming. It was like,
I don't know what that's like.
Wait till you turn 50, honey. So I was like, I think Matt gave it a really good go. I'm super excited for Hickman. As a matter of fact, I've been rereading Hickman's run of Avengers because, to help me solidify the first 6 issues of the Accords. I know that he's going to hit it out of the ballpark.
He's great. His run, his Avengers run is awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you know? Are you up to speed on exactly what these Powers of X and House of X, what the whole concept is, like what's going on?
So House of X is an important month in mutantdom, so, and it's present day. And all we know is that now mutants have an island that they could teleport to, that they could only go through the gate if you're a mutant or accompanied by a mutant. So it sounds very Siege Perilous kind of thing.
Definitely.
So there's that. And then there's Powers of 10. Everyone thinks it's Powers of X. And that is the secret history of mutantdom. So it's like in the past. And so that's where you see the merger of characters like that Ileana Colossus merger and the Red Nightcrawler. So apparently this is all past-based, which then leads into Dawn of X. And you've got all of these. I'm loving all these titles that are coming out. I only have one issue with, of course, Gene.
Okay, see, I didn't know about Dawn of X. So it's going House of X, Power of 10, and then Dawn of X.
So when that's done, Dawn of X, and you've got how many titles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new titles.
After Dawn of X or at the same time?
That's the Dawn of X. It's those.
Oh,
6
so
titles.
it's a banner.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And what are those 6 titles?
So you've got the main book, which is X-Men, which has Jean Grey as Marvel Girl, which is pissing me the hell off. She's a grown-ass woman, a mega-level mutant, and she's back to the Marvel Girl costume and code name.
So is this like a reboot or a retcon? Like what?
Who the hell knows?
I don't even think they know. I think they know that X-Men mutantdom in general has sort of needed a little bit of a facelift. I also don't think, like, call me cynical, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the Marvel movie world just reacquired all the mutant characters.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden we're getting this massive mutant facelift where, like, you could argue if you were a conspiracy theorist, you could argue that over the last decade, Marvel has pushed the mutants and Fantastic Four, Fox-owned properties in the comic world. They've pushed them to the side, or they just haven't focused on them as much because they won't own them in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I wasn't really a fan of either Gold or Blue.
I liked Blue because it had young Jean Grey, and I liked that take on it. And then we've got Bobby coming out, Iceman coming out as gay. So I like those elements of it, but I didn't particularly care for X-Men Gold myself.
Okay, so did I cut you off? So it was Dawn of X what were those titles?
So you got X-Men, which that's the flagship book. It's supposed to have a rotating cast, but on the cover is Havoc, who was just killed in that was a spoiler. Sorry. So one of the things is a lot of the mutants that Rosenberg killed, Hickman's bringing back. So I can't wait to see how he's going to do that. More Phoenix seeds, I wonder.
Yep.
So you got Havoc, Jean, Vulcan, Corsair, Cyclops, Wolverine, Rachel Grey, and Kid Cable. in that book. Then you've got Excalibur with Gambit, Jubilee, Apocalypse, Richter, Rogue, and Betsy as the new Captain Britain.
I'm interested.
Are those both?
I'm interested in that. That's a lineup I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Are those both Hickman books?
So Hickman's doing the main book. Who's doing Excalibur? Teeny Howard.
Oh, okay.
And then Jerry Duggan is doing Marauders, which is Kitty, Iceman, Bishop, Emma Frost, Pyro, and Storm, which ironically is the team that was in the 3rd volume of Cena Grace's Iceman. I thought that was interesting, and there's a little bit of a buzz on that.
What do you think of Duggan?
He's hit or miss.
Agreed.
He's hit or miss.
I'm into that lineup too, though. I don't mind that.
Listen, Kitty and Emma on the same team.
Exactly,
gives me
yeah.
so much life.
I think when Kitty Pryde is written well, she's about the most fun X-Man to read.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Yep.
Then you got New Mutants by Ed Brisson. I'm very excited. You've got Magic Sunspot, Wolfsbane Chamber, Karma, Moonstar, Cypher, but he's wearing a Warlock arm, so maybe it's Psylocke. And Mondo, who I thought died in the pages of Generation X years ago. Fallen Angels. Now, this one has me the most excited. So you got Psylocke's double. I always mispronounce her name. Kawan, maybe is her name. I'm butchering it, I'm sure. You've got X-23 and Kid Cable. So you've basically got the clones and copies of original characters on the team.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, from a psychological perspective, I'm living for this title. Living.
And that's called Fallen Angels?
Fallen Angels. And then you have X-Force, which is supposed to be the CIA team.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's Black Tom Cassidy, The Return of Sage, which I'm very excited about, Beast, Colossus, Wolverine, Quentin Quire, who I love and hate. Like, he's like the bad ex that you go have sex with because the sex is so good, but you can't stand them. That's who Quentin Quire is for me. Domino and Jean. So Jean is in 2 books. Very excited about this.
I think I was the Quentin Quire for some girls in college.
I find that hard to believe because you are not as obnoxious as he is.
That's fair. Also, well, I have many layers.
Oh, okay. All right.
So which book are you most excited about?
Fallen Angels, probably. So I want to answer that in 2 parts. The psychologist is dying to read Fallen Angels. I don't know who the writer is on that one. Brian Edward Hill. I have no idea who he is. And then the other one, the flagship book, X-Men, because it has Jean and Rachel.
Brian Hill from not the guy from DC that was writing The Outsiders.
Maybe. But anytime you have Jean and Rachel on the same team, I want to see that. Give me some more of that. So you got Jean and Rachel on one team, and then Scott on that team, and Scott and Cable with Corsair and Havoc and Vulcan. It's like the whole Summers crew.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Is X-23 around in any one of these books?
She's in Fallen Angels.
Okay. I love X-23. I'm a big fan.
I love Laura. Yeah. I mean, and Tom Taylor's run was by far the best.
Yeah. I'm hoping that on the movie side, Marvel realizes how good Daphne Keane was in Logan, and
oh my God, she was amazing.
Does something with it. Yeah.
Now, is this going to be one of those things where you got to read all of them, or is it a loose banner? I mean, is it going to be one continuing story?
I think it's a loose banner. But I think you have to read House of X, Powers of 10 to get the new Dawn of X.
Yeah.
But I'm all right with that. It's Hickman. Hickman's one of those writers that I'm like, I'll read whatever he writes. Hickman, Ennis, Gaiman. These are people that they really never do wrong. Morrison's kind of hit or miss with me too.
I was going to ask you, do you hate Morrison as much as Bill?
I think he's a hack.
So I loved his Doom Patrol run. With his X-Men run, I was like, okay, it's cute, it's innovative, but you killed Jean with an electromagnetic pulse to her brain. What the fuck is that? That that's why So I mean, if something were to happen to Grant, which I would not be responsible for, by the way, I would be
That would be the reason.
I would be like, what's for dinner? You know?
I feel very much the same.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay.
Grant gets on my case all the time.
So I mean, Grant Morrison for me, my favorite thing he's ever done was Doom Patrol.
I'm not sure who the artist is on X-Force, but I'm looking at the covered X-Force #1 right now, and both Jean Grey and Domino look really attractive.
The cover's by Dustin Weaver.
Yeah, I'm a fan right off the bat. As much as I agree with you that Marvel Girl is a silly name for her. The old school green and yellow costume, I don't mind it so much.
It's cute, but I liked her X-Men Red outfit. It was like, very away from traditional Jean Grey, but it still incorporated a lot of the elements of her history. So I like that costume quite a bit.
And it looks like Wolverine's back to the classic maroon and yellow.
Yeah, no fire claws either.
Yeah.
I didn't see that anywhere.
It's been a while since I've gone to the store and collected issues, but I feel like I might do it for this. I really want to be up to date on this whole...
Yeah, I think you should at least go and grab like the House of X and Powers of 10.
I think I'm going to. I'm such mutants are...
I think the first one comes out this week, doesn't it?
House of X comes out Wednesday.
Week? Yeah.
Mutants are what got me. I mean, my love of comics started with Chris Claremont and Uncanny X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga. That's the first storyline that I was obsessed with. So, I mean, I've been waiting for mutants to relaunch like this. So I'm pretty excited for it.
I think Hickman's the one to do it.
I mean, I remember when I stopped collecting, a few years back, he was one of the last people that kept me reading because his run on Avengers was so good. He's really good.
All right, everybody. So we're going to put a pin in it right there, and that's going to end part 1 of this 2-part arc. Bill and Frank Eat Pop Culture with Dr. Tony Ortega, part 1. We'll be back with you later in the week for part 2, and where we'll be discussing all of the Hall H announcements related to Marvel's Cinematic Universe Phase 4.
Yes.
Bill sent me all of his bullet points, and it's a long, long list, so we couldn't squeeze it all into one episode, and we don't really want to truncate it. But that being said, I want to say thank you to Dr. Tony Ortega for coming on tonight, and do you want to give them some plugs or where they can reach you?
Sure. So first of all, guys, thank you so much. I am so honored to be on the show. When I heard episode 1, I was like, oh my God, I love this. And I even would listen to like the wrestling pieces, even though I don't watch wrestling, because the dynamic between you two is like hysterical. So I was like, okay, I'll listen to it. It's funny as shit anyway. You can find me very easy on most social medias under Dr. Tony Ortega, DR, not Doctor like Doctor Strange. And any questions or anything, or anything about psychology, mental health, LGBTQI issues, please feel free to reach out. I love to answer questions, so don't hesitate to do so.
Great. And you can find Bill and I on Twitter at BF Eat Pop Culture and on Instagram at BF Eat Pop Culture. And our email is eatpopculture@gmail.com. Please drop us a line on any of those mediums. Ask us questions, interact. We love it. We enjoy every time we get to interact with one of you guys. It really makes our weeks go by quicker. And also check out backboardedandbox.com. If you're hearing impaired, we have transcripts of the episodes, so you can follow along in writing. And I think that's everything. Bill, you got anything else?
Yeah, I just want to remind people one more time, take any money you have. If you're planning on going to the bar this week, maybe don't. Go to Kickstarter, look up the Accords, donate to Tony's comic book. He's almost there. It'd be a really cool thing for him to get this out into the world. So any help, I'm sure he would greatly appreciate.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
And donate a tier higher than Bill.
Right.
Okay, everybody. We'll see you back with part 2. Be well.
brought to you by the Odd Pod Squad.